guys. So we're here with the Secret Energy Worldwide Meditation, and it's been 21 days for us. We've been going deep into this meditation, and it feels great. A lot of stuff is happening around us, and we feel rejuvenated about everything that's happening, and we're making changes as we continuously go into this energy. The energy is very strong. Any meditator that takes a few breaths can feel just how strong the prana is. And I would say that this is for sure because nature has gotten some relief for a few weeks. And I would also even wonder what the world would be like even after 3 to 6 months of the environment regenerating. Like, and I just have my notions about if we could even really, like, if you just think about it, like how fast animals and everybody has had to multiply to compensate for the yield of how much humanity has basically put on their population, or basically the decreasing of everybody else's population because of the human beings. And in the event that this wildlife keeps generating, still thinking that we would be taking from it, it takes a moment to put things back in balance. So I believe like this is where real surges of energy are going to come in at on the astral plane, is because you're going to see a lot of the kingdoms really gain their stability again, gain their own foundation, just like what we're doing now. And this is why it's also very important to work with the non-judgment. I want to make it very clear that when I say non-judgment, I'm not talking about choices, because I'm seeing that starting to get confused for people. They're thinking when I'm saying non-judgment, I'm saying just to love everything and all of that. And that that's something that you're going to have to get together yourself. That's the petty way of looking at it. Judging is about you making the choices because you are the leader in your own life. It has little to do externally with everything else if you're working things and operating things internally. So it's important for us to come into harmony with our entire consciousness, because we'll gain that boost of energy. We won't gain like some type of conflict, because if you could imagine, if let's say we've been pretty harsh on the bovids over the last 2,000, 3,000 years of continuously, or I would say even the last 40 years. See, it's all about how if it's still kept in a sacred manner. Like eating and consumption is very sacred, as we've talked about. And when you have a Burger King, just flipping out all these burgers, and nobody's even got any type of connection with what the meat is and all of that kind of stuff happening, then you get this situation where this energy gets stuck and it gets blocked. And then so it becomes an issue for the beings that are doing it, i.e., let's say the human beings, and all of the ailments and the overweight and all that stuff that's occurred from having too much of that particular element, in this case, beef. And then also for the actual species itself and its collective co-creation. It's all the beings that are all in its realm, right? And that's just not the cows only. That's the insects, that's the mushrooms, as we learned, that's the birds that eat the different stuff that's growing on their back. There's all types of things that are connected into that genus. And so we don't like see times of retribution, because people wonder where this energy is coming from and how things are actually happening. And it is very specific. It's just not like the wind where all of a sudden something starts happening and blowing and you don't know where it's coming from. Every single thing that's going to happen in the future is going to be based on something that's happening right now in the present. So if all of these kingdoms gain their foothold again and gain back their power and awareness and stability and connection, because they're not being over harvested, now they're going to be able to come to the table, and more than likely they're going to come to the table with the complaints first, like just the plights, like, okay, we were also participating in the co-creation. These beings, they did this and this and this to us. And just like we're seeing with these lunar cycles, with the new moon and the full moon, you reap what you sow. So, if you plant something, that's what you get back. And so that's why they talk about, again, these payments or pagamentos, or just every single family lineage has things that it needs to give to nature in order to balance out for what it's receiving. And most importantly, because it's a family, you give with your presence. You don't always like we talk about your presence, like the same, almost the word, same word, your present and presence. You give with your presence by being aware and being in tune and knowing how sacred the connection is. Not just, oh, here's a gift, or here's some jewels, or here's a butterfly, or here's what I did for all of these other people. It's not that. It's your own personal connection where your vibratory frequency is. And then it makes sense then that as judgment keeps rolling, that you would be judged based on that. Every single day you're judged based on that anyway. How you feel, what you've been doing, what you connect to is the life that you live. So this is not like prophecies and you're going to tell people what's going to happen in the future. This is already what's going on right now and been going on for thousands of years, about this giving and this receiving aspect of what's happening in the matrix, and how when you master what's happening and you start really seeing how you yourself personally can do your own books, if you may work out your own current and your own situation with your current, that's going to keep you on point. So today, since it's still full moon for me, the energy is on fleek. Like if I just sit down and breathe less than 3 breaths, I'm already in, I'm gone. Like I'm feeling the connection, and I just, oh man, I yearn to spend more time there. Even that itself has to be maintained in a certain level of balance, based on the things that are actually happening around us. And I know for sure that there's a lot of members of my tribe that really, really need assistance on different levels, whether it's a 2-hour direct conversation, some stuff going on over here, us planning for the future, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. It's planning for the near future. And then all the other things. Remember, I have a family, I have a daughter, I have a wife. So there's a lot of things that I got to be doing around me. And I'm up for the challenge, because if you're also feeling overwhelmed, that it's too much stuff going around you, you have to remember what I said about these times and what you need to do. This is 2020. You're going to have to get it on the ball this whole year. You're going to have to climb Mount Meru this whole year. But the beauty is, if you do it now, you won't have to do it anymore. This is what, when it comes to, because right now, you got to have motivation to go up that mountain. But once you get to the top, you tap into the cosmic center, so you won't need motives anymore. But you're going to have to make that climb. And that climb is going to build you, it's going to shape you, it's going to structure you. Just as a mountain climber, you're going to, your lungs, your legs, everything is going to get some level of a workout. Especially, you going Meru. This is Everest is a molehill compared to Meru. So imagine, where you're going to be at. And that's what you have to do sometimes when you're going through these tough times, is not think about like the present. Imagine where you're going to be at. Don't think about like, if you're building a house, right, and you just barely laid the foundation in, you have to focus on the house completely built, because you're not seeing the house yet. But you being so focused on what it's going to become gives you the potential of being able to complete what you're doing with little stress and complaining and groaning. Because also, when you're doing something in that kind of frequency, we can already see that those results, even in basketball, don't work. If you're stressed, complaining, groaning, you're not going to hit that shot. You need to be in the zen. So this is the reality of all of this, is like, now we get this opportunity to use these powers, and then they give us awareness of all things, not just spiritual things or what you're calling spiritual, not just the mental things and the occult things and all the different categories that we saw as boxes last time we talked. Not all those compartmentalizations, but everything together. So what I wanted to speak to today was, there's a lot of energy out there. Like last night, I was so hot, I almost burned a hole in the mattress. Like the internal heat systems. And there was a meditation that went on last night, and others had exclaimed that totally separate to what I had going on, but they were like, wow, I did a meditation, I feel like my internals heating up. And as we talked about earlier, day before yesterday, we call it the burner. This is the lower chakras. The lower chakras have a certain level of heat. It's the real, what you call the BTU, right? The British thermal unit, right? But the real BTU, or the heat measurement for the body, is the same measurement of the degrees that we kept talking about the degrees of the Kundalini, the degrees of the wisdom and knowledge, the fire, and how fire is measured by degrees, and also being in tune to know that if we're seeing some change, we should actually be feeling some change. There's a check and balance system. So I feel internally that there's a lot of power and energy, not only coming, but also here now. And it's necessary that that energy be transmuted. The laws of transmutation need to be known, because you could take a raw element and turn it into many things. But as a raw element itself, it may not have as much use to the areas and the spaces that you're currently in. Meaning, like, if somebody just drops off a brick of iron right on the doorstep right here, how much am I really going to do with that? Now, if it was made into forks, or if it was made into axes, or if it was made into plows, or if it was made into something that we could actually do something with, now we're a step further. So we have to realize that about this energy, especially the energy that's coming through, is that it's like in itself just a massive block of unlimited power. And now you have to decide what it's shaped, formed, and fashioned into. So I trust that makes sense, that this is more or less a two-step process. You're gaining the energy in the Kundalini. If you feel that going through your body and going through your consciousness now, then, you get that part. But then there's also, now I have to shape it and form it into something in this world. It's 2020. So this means that if you still have like these primitive ideas of what you want to do with the energy, like if it has to do with primal thoughts, that's when it would be primitive. Primal thoughts, just stuff that has to do with survival, sexual stuff, these kind of things. That's the foreground for it. But that is not when you're getting to the progression of what that energy could be in this time, because you want to bring energy into this space and into this moment that you're in. You don't want to, if it's 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years in the future, that's not going to serve you as well as it does right here, right now, in this time. So the question is then, how are we transmuting this energy? Like, what is really the plan? If you don't have a plan, this is a great time for you to be here, because you can start realizing why a plan is so important. When you see people even wanting to start businesses and they don't have business plans, you already know not to give them any money, because they don't have a plan. And if it's all in their mind, that's great. But if nobody else can see it, that means you intend on working by yourself. And if you're working by yourself, you can get pretty far, but you won't get further than somebody else or other beings that are working in a collective. So this is where even the entrepreneurial mind has to shift from this one man or one woman army to delegation, which creates real businesses where you have more people that are actually involved in the responsibilities and all that going on. But that simple move, because some say, well, how are we talking about business? That exists metaphysically. If you're like this one man or one woman or one androgynous being that is gliding through the cosmos, saving the universe, I'm sure you're going to get tired after a while. After lifting all these weights, like even trying to heal aliens, other beings that you have no idea what kind of bio work they're even working with. And now you're sent in to heal. That's where many are so stumped right now. They're trying to figure out how to cure even rapists, and it can't come across their consciousness of how you would fix something that's that distorted. But nature existed first as a solution, not a problem. So that means that there's even ways to fix that being. There's even beings that know how to move in on that and fix that. But if that may be foreign to you, this is why it's important for you to be full spectrum. So that way you can get that knowledge somehow. If that's, as you glide more into the awareness of self, you can gain the knowledge and awareness. You can enroll for that class, if you may, of realizing the depth of yourself and the power of your healing. Because when you say, okay, I definitely can't work with something like that, which may be true, that's a good assessment. However, it still does say that the power is at a certain limit. And what you're saying is that you have unlimited power. It could change anything and everything. So now, when we start to focus, like right now, what I have going on, and I can't actually show anything today, which is, I guess that's how it's to be. That's the design, because the system that mirrors the screen is not functioning. Actually, I have another one, but yeah, I guess I could break this one out. I just wanted to show you really briefly how, again, because as I said in the beginning, like, of course, I would want to spend a lot of time just sitting directly in nature, and I do that. But I also realize that I probably will do more of that in 2021 than I will do in 2020. It's not something that I prefer doing. It's that I have to realize my responsibilities. As a divine masculine and divine feminine alike, we have responsibilities also in this process, that once we receive some stability, then we have to extend that stability to others in the best way that we can. So this is what makes it, like, you know how as a parent, you may be in there in the bathtub, got your bubbles on and everything, but if the child wakes up, that's all over. You're all out the bathtub, and like when you have a small child, like, this is what it is. Now the bath, like, you was hoping to catch that window, but if it's over, it's over. Now you got to come back in, and you have to do what you need to do to be a parent. Earth is no different. So I may be sunk off in the jungle, laying under some waterfall, singing Kumbaya, going into the great levels of the arcana. But when I get a page from the mother, like transition time, all that's over. And then I look for my terms, and we talked about this a while ago. It's like, just like you have terms with your job, there's terms with the cosmos. Believe it or not. It's great to state your terms, because I realize that the beings would just like, shoot, we need more like you, so you can handle all the responsibilities. If you think so, go ahead, my child. So you have to be able to state your terms and say, this is what I'm capable of doing based on a summary of my abilities that I'm aware of within myself. And so that's why I said my terms, since this has been 10 years almost for me now, or actually it's over 10 years, my terms is saying, 2020 is the final run. But boy, when I'm saying that, when they say finish strong, we use that term, finish strong. I'm talking about some real finishing strong, to where it will get to a point where it will never end. Like, basically, once I coast out of 2020, what I have done in 2020 will last forever. It's going to be that powerful. There would be no need to even touch it anymore. Go back in there and do it. You may make a guest appearance, you may make a cameo or something, but what it started and how many people are doing it, how many people it's affecting, how many people are doing it themselves, you can afford to actually move into a greater stage or another stage of your existence. So this is what I'm saying as far as plans. When someone says life goals, I'm talking about astral goals. So let us start realizing that now that we are aware of how to call in this power and this force, and it's always available. If you're not feeling it yet, if you haven't felt anything, keep going. I'm telling you, it's there. Do not desist. You may have everything around you, your mind saying, see, look, they lying. It's no real special power. They just saying stuff about that. Or you don't have it. You probably calcified yourself when you ate the Similac with iron, or whatever it wants to say. It's lying. You have it just as sure as you dream. We all have it. It needs to be cultivated, though. Like, trees have to be pruned for them to grow more fruit. Flowers have to be pruned for them to grow. Bushes have to be pruned for them to grow better and more flowers. So while it may seem fine and dandy and fanciful to sit in an environment and act like nothing should be chopped or nothing should be cut, that's a pixelated world. That's not reality, because it comes to all of us. So you can do yourself one better and say, nah, I got my own garden. I'm going to chop and cut myself. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm about to get this thing pruned up properly so that it can render its greatest harvest ever. because there's an underlining situation. As if we study algorithms, we see everything in the physical reality is actually taking place in the metaphysical. The physical reality is not that powerful and all it is and all that for what it has going on to not be going on somewhere else in a greater magnitude. So that always means, though, that you can look into physical reality and you can see some of these analogies that you may be able to understand what's going on, and then you can cross it over to its metaphysical component. And sometimes that's easier to do because a lot of the metaphysical stuff, until you really gain the blueprint, is virtually unreachable in the consciousness as far as being able to comprehend it, because we're still dealing with things such as judgments. But here's one thing, or false judgments. So here's one thing. It says the times, what I wanted to highlight here is the times that we missed or we miss due to panicking, and how this panic thing has been going on for thousands of years. And every time there is what we would call a displacement of wealth. Okay. This is when there's a shift of basically who's controlling things, who's in charge. Just listen to what I'm saying. There's always a pattern here. There's a change of guard that happens, meaning astronomically, we know we switch from house to house. We even see that in our personalities. And then there's these big switches that happen at times, these big lineups. And then everything switches and changes. And because we don't really look at the insight to how things are changing, oftentimes the beings that were ruling before that we had a problem with, when the change comes, they change, and then now they're into the positions again that is of the new house. It's like a new house, but the same old rulers. Because when the change happens, the beings that really would be the most instrumental in doing the leading, they're panicking. Okay, so let me show you how this works on the as below realm. When the .com boom happened, meaning that at a certain point, America Online, Prodigy, the internet came alive. The military gave it to the open public to use as the communication tool, amongst many other things. When this happened, you had different kind of groups of people. I want to leave a note for myself about something I can pass on to you after the end of this conversation that will give you a lot of education in this really fast. Like, it'll take you about maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you would become a financial genius for right now in 2020 on what's happening. But during this time of the .com boom, you had different types of people. And this is how you can watch how this thing is working metaphysically. You had this one group that was, first of all, insisting that the internet was the most evil monster and it was going to kill us all. And it was going to brand us all 666 with barcodes on our foreheads, and it was going to be the end of humanity. There was that group. There was another group that they were like, this is stupid. Like, why would people want to come online when they can meet each other in person? And then you had this other group, and I'm only going to name 3 groups because, you know, you probably have 20 groups, but there's a majorities. Then you had these people that were like, this is going to be big. How exactly do I get involved? How exactly, what is getting big in this means? Okay, I get it. I go and register a domain. That's easy enough. I'm going to take red.com. Oh, it's 36 cents. Maybe I take all the colors, yellow.com, blue.com, green.com. I don't know. I just want to do coloring books. I'm going to bring coloring books online. Let me show you something here. It reached a certain point within a few months that even if you did t-shirts and you announced to everyone that you were bringing t-shirts online, you already had millions of dollars. There were companies that were looking for you and trying to find you because they felt that this .com thing was going to boom. They didn't have anybody that was going to go and do it themselves, because see, that's the thing about when you're on the higher levels, you don't go and do it yourself. When you have all resources and all that already, you just pay other people to do it. You invest in other people who are doing it. So notice that's also one stature in the whole thing, because that means the last panic cycle, you wasn't panicking and you benefited from what was happening. Now you have a surplus, if you may. And then when the new thing comes along, you don't even have to actually work or get involved. All you have to do is invest in those who want to work and want to get involved. Okay, just another thing to note here, that just catching one panic cycle. That's all you need. Catch one panic cycle at the proper level of who you truly are and where and know everything about what's happening. And then you'll never see a panic cycle again. And you'll be able to spread this to the rest of your family members, because you'll be able to not only teach them this from an example, but you'll also be able to lift them up because you'll have these resources to be able to do that. So anybody that was sitting at home that wasn't acting like they either wanted to buy something off the internet, chat with other people on the internet. So that means that you just inhabited it. And I'm going to show you this happens over and over again. You inhabit it. You like use the service and things, but you never really, let's say, figure out how to create the service yourself. Like what my mom always told me, that you need to figure out how to be the manufacturer, James, not just buying things from people all the time. Okay, so watch how this worked. So there were people who inhabited it. And they had a great time. American Online. I remember my first chat in the chat room. I was like, are these people real? Are you guys real? And then somebody typed back, ha, ha, ha. It must be his first time in a chat room, because it was a continuous phenomenon of just being able to connect with people that were on the other side of the world. Okay. So we inhabited it. We got the PayPal account, 0 accounts, and now here we are right now, okay? But there were other groups of people who said, I'm going to have a .com. I'm going to go on this website thing, register me a domain, and start the first process of how do you build a website. Remember MySpace pages, and just how MySpace page, I have like 2 million people part of the MySpace page. So there it was. That was a boom, if you may. It was a change in house. Now, of course, this plays out on sometimes petty earth, depending on what we're doing, as us just learning, getting this new thing called internet. But what's happening on a metaphysical level is actually gates are opening up and a new level of communication is happening, but also new things are being let in that weren't necessarily in the pen before that time. So when gates are open, energy moves, things go through. There's always a panic. This is like when somebody opens up the gate and there's a bunch of bulls coming. It's power in itself, and power is feared. So when this power is coming through, it could be used to assist things and take things to another level, and it can be used to destroy everything. That's just the whole nature of power. Okay, so that session went through. You had some that basically they shifted. When the wealth shifted over, like I said, even the Rockefellers wasn't in. So all the Peter Thiels and all the Elon Musk and all of the, you know, the guys that started Prodigy and Earthlink and all those people, they took themselves and their families from the normal level that they were on, whatever privileges they may have had, and they went right into, now I actually am controlling things for hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, right? So shift, new time comes. Now let's go to the next shift. Shift starts happening again. Shift happens. The only thing that you can guarantee in a vibration or a frequency is that it's going to move. So things are going to change. So beings that are always looking for things to stay the same, you know, you could tap into the immovable aspects of self, but this is not the space that things always maintain the same. This is a wave. So things always change. So it's best to learn how things change and see the patterns and learn where you should be at in a pattern. This is how you can catch up. When the real estate boom happened, which again, I've been here for all of these. I'm only 41 years old. I've been through all of these. And I'm sure somebody 81 can add at least 4 more sessions of different things to this list that they also witness and watch drive right by. Why they're even complaining, look at that. They're always enriching themselves. They're always making themselves wealthy. Then they get all that money and then they downtrod the poor. Then why don't you be the being that just realizes what's happening and how it works? And then now you're up there, and instead of downtrodden the poor, you're creating things to actually assist them. And then because it's a change of house, you actually are really in power. You don't have to worry about any kind of assault that may come from other things because you're aware of the metaphysical dynamics to all of this. So again, real estate boom happens. Okay. So you had, like, I remember this, I was actually in Atlanta, so you can imagine what was going on there. So you had 2 different kind of mindsets. You had one that was like, okay, I found out that I can get a house and I don't even need to have a job. This never sounds like a good idea anyway. But anyway, I'm going to get this house. I don't have to prove that I make any income. I don't have to have good credit. I don't have to have nothing. And this is because the bank speculated that because property was always going up, that the bank wanted to buy property through people. It's the same way in Israel. They tell you that you can go to different parts of the world and buy land, and the Bank of Israel will finance you 100%. Now, of course, that land will belong to the bank until you actually, pay it off. And that's really what they're shooting for, because they know that most people are never going to end up paying off their home, and they're going to own that. So the Bank of Israel, they did this in Costa Rica. They own a lot of different things here, and they send the people out to actually buy different things, but it's really the bank, because the bank is holding the notes, and the banks are private. You can become a bank. That's what we learned in crypto. But the reality is that, so during the real estate boom, the banks were like, we're going to just use people as proxies, get them to go out and buy up as much land as possible, because land always goes up, and that'll be another asset for the bank. Now, of course, things didn't work that way, but you had different types of people. You had the ones that were now all of a sudden they got this nice condo or this nice house that they can't pay for, but they're actually paying for it from the overage that they were giving as incentives. Like they were letting you pull out the equity in the home. So if a home is selling for 100,000, but they appraise it at 200,000, they would even give you, if you said, well, I want to do the note for 150,000, they would give you $50,000 at the closing. This is what equals so many people doing it. Not that they just wanted houses. They wanted this extra money that was going to also come in after that. So they got that extra money, and then they started paying rent with that extra money, or the lease or the note with that extra money, thinking, I'll figure it out. With $50,000, I'm going to start my own hot dog stand, and then I'm going to be able to pay for my house. And you see your future of success really fast, right? And then there was these other cats that they didn't buy houses. They bought entire blocks. They bought entire condominiums, not just one condo, the whole condominium, because the same rule applied. You could come in there with no credit, no nothing, and actually leverage that with the bank, and the bank would give you $6-7 million. And then these folks would be sitting on like 3 or 4 million in equity. So they took larger chunks, but still it was the guy that purchased the little house for himself and the guy who bought the entire condo, or the entire condominium, that both in the crash went into bankruptcy. So the same effect for both of them, but who do you think actually had enough capital to go into the next level or the next opening of the current movement in the reality? Probably the guy who had millions of dollars from the condominiums. So once again, you had also other people who they just rented the house. Once a few people caught on to this, they would get like 3 or 4 houses. Now they were going to become like, I saw so many people, they said, yeah, I'm just going to use the rent and the overage from the rent, and then actually create a passive form of income. There was even courses teaching about this. So now I'm going to get 3 houses and I'm going to become a landlord, which is the worst job. And you're trying to collect rent, and you're not even making the mortgage because the rents that you're charging is not even enough for the mortgage. You got to know how to do all of this stuff. So once again, like I said, even the lowest level was the people going in and staying in some of these houses and dealing with bad landlords that never had been landlords before, all the way to the point where the house was lost and then they got their stuff put out outside. So notice how, again, there's different levels to this. There was the bank who still went on. There was the guy who did all the big condominiums who still went on. But then the one who just bought the nice house and was paying for it with the money that they were giving him for the equity, he's down on the bottom, and he doesn't make it into the next cycle. Now, when you don't make it into the next cycle on top, you still make it in, but you're on the bottom. Next situation, the cryptocurrency boom. Once crypto hit and started trending, you had different kind of people. You had the one that insisted that it was the most destructive, evil creature. I even lost some friends over this that now have it on their website. I'm like, damn, was that even worth our friendship? You just went a complete cycle. It was the evil thing. It was going to be used to do XYZ. No doubt that it may be. But that's always the story with power. It's always used to either boost something or destroy something. You just choose. Are you going to be the millstone or the grain? Are you going to be the intelligent one that knows where your position is in all of this? Or are you going to be the one that is just acting on? So cryptocurrency happened. Cryptocurrency was around so long before it actually boomed. It's incredible. I know guys, if I knew where they were now, they would just have hundreds of these sitting on wallets from other things that they were doing with it, buying weed and this kind of stuff with it. So when this happened, when it finally came out to the public, there was still a huge window open. You had different kind of people. You had the people that wanted to just put their money into a crypto. Okay. If they did it early enough, they were able to ride it up, but there was so much else you needed to learn. The charts were psychological. What comes up, what comes up, what goes up must come down. You can't like put your heart into a corporation that you don't even know, and you're riding with that corporation all the way back down to the bottom. There was so much other things that you needed to know. But most importantly, people were investing in cryptos, but they weren't asking themselves, how do I create an ICO? That information was almost like taboo. It was so simple to create your own crypto. But I remember personally, everybody was trying to make it so complicated. They were so selfish and stingy. Like, oh yeah, we're just trying to start up a crypto. Well, I can help you start up a crypto, but I need to get 50% of whatever it is that you're doing. You could generate thousands of ERC-20 contracts, which is all it takes right now from a simple system, and it costs nothing. When that whole boom was happening, you couldn't get even the people who knew how to do that to actually come in and assist you to even be able to do it. That's how exclusive the knowledge was. They were making it like, you got to know how to manage it. And it's a special kind of technology, and you need special programmers. We're going to need 60%. So basically what I'm saying is that there were the people who invested in the charge. Then there was almost no knowledge of how to create a crypto. And then when that finally happened, when you finally figured out, oh, this is easy, the FTC or the Federal Trade Commission was already involved in telling everybody you can't start a cryptocurrency anymore. But before then, you could start an ERC-20 contract and you would have millions of dollars. A lot of people in different countries, Romania, China, Japan, Taiwan, Singapore, all of those ICOs, people were running to try to give money to the ICO. The ICO would close within 2 minutes, and they wanted $50 million. They would get $50 million in under 2 minutes. And then we'd be there mad because we couldn't give them money to make money off of what was happening. But remember, we're on one end trying to get this ICO, not being an ICO. So last but not least, the coronavirus boom. Yes, it's another boom again. Remember, I released this video of Trump in a meeting with his phone on. Somebody had a phone in the meeting and left the phone on the table. Remember Trump, and you would see Trump in the club in Atlanta. This guy has been everywhere as far as like, he knows how to deal with all types of people from all different ways of life. Jeezy and Trump are actually friends. So what I'm saying is that being around even Trump, it's like he's gone years and years of that being like his normal. So when people are in the room with Trump, you can have a cell phone on and Trump is like so casual, he won't even like check to make sure the phones are off, which is a Secret Service's job, but they're even dialed back. So this cell phone is sitting on the table pointed towards the ceiling. First, when the guy comes in, he points the phone at all the chairs laid out so you can see that they're really in the room. You see the place cards on the table and all of the different people who are supposed to be there. And then they're having this dinner. Then the guy, he sits down at the table because he's clearly a member. It was fleshed out that he was a person that was trying to out what Trump was really about and doing. But he was also from another country, and some stuff happened in the embassy, blah, 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 just some political stuff. But this guy was trying to bring evidence that, hey, this guy that you guys are believing in, he's really like this. So he left the phone on for an hour and a half. And in this hour and a half, you hear this reoccurring theme with this guy where it's business as usual. How is your business doing? I wouldn't be surprised if this guy is a clone, just a business clone. How is your business doing? Really, not that well. How can we make that better? So this guy is going from place to place to place, meeting politician to politician to company leader to whoever, always trying to strike up a business deal and get a part of it. And so because this country that we're in has enriched itself on things like the poppy seed and opium seeds and all these marijuana seeds and all of the seeds, basically, What they are more than anything is actually drug dealers. What are the companies that actually are making the most money? My mom even stated she's still dealing with asthma in certain ways. She goes to get the inhaler, no inhalers in none of the pharmacies. Because everybody thinks that they can help themselves in this situation with this virus that's being misdiagnosed, as all the doctors are saying, is being treated like pneumonia, and that's not even what it is. Ventilators and all this is actually making a person even worse. But all the medical supplies are gone. Who's benefiting off of that? The medical companies. Even the old Monsantos and Bayer and all of them, the same benefactors are benefiting because once again, the transfer is happening, the wealth transfer is happening, the current transfer is happening, but they're moving over into another house. And same rulers, different house. Until you start seeing, because there's going to be another one, and there's going to be another one. This never ends. It's just like watching somebody watch the charts for the first time. They're like, it's going up. It's never going to come down. It's like, it's going to come down. And then when it comes all the way down, it's over, it's finished. No, it's going to come back up. Then it starts coming back up again. That's what we talk about, the psychological aspects of the charts. Things are going up and you're like, I'm going to get in because I don't want to miss out. Then you get in because you're so slow, right almost at the top before it starts coming down. Then it starts coming down. You get paranoid and be like, man, it's going down because there's always something happening. Oh, they figured out that it's illegal. It's going down. You better get your money out right now. Then you get your money out. You take your money out at a loss. It hits the floor. Then it starts going back up again. And then you're like, oh my goodness, it's going to go back up again. I need to make back the money that I lost. You put back in, and it's like a casino run by AI, where if you are not as close to the supply chain as possible, because this is who was that was mentioning that? It was one brother that I was speaking with, and I think that was my brother. Actually, it was my brother. He's deep into the numbers and everything. He was basically saying that what recession proof is, when you use this as a term, because if you create, let's say, a company or a corporation right now, you have to create it to be what they call recession proof. And a big statistic in making something recession proof is that you have to be either the supply chain or as close to the supply chain as possible. This means whoever's producing it either should be you or you should be right next door to them. Or else when a recession occurs, they cut the supply chain. So whoever is down in the supply chain, I make armrests for Bugattis. You're out. Like I make pedals for bikes. You're out. You had to be where the pedals, or I sell pedals for bikes. You had to be where the pedals are actually made, where the actual the plastic, the reflectors, the glass, all that stuff is coming in at to make that, because that's recession proof. Why? Just like what you see now. A Tesla factory can make a ventilator. So every time industry shifts, the factory and the tuning and the king just changes to produce things that are actually in right now. So there are many that converted their fabric factories into just making masks right now. And the factory is way up, like they boom. Like they never saw those kind of revenues. They were once in a very competitive field. Now they're in something completely exclusive. So what I'm getting at here, because I'm sure you've heard enough examples now, I'm sure you even have some examples of your own, is that there's this trend that I see keep happening where we're like downplaying the external reality all the time as spiritual beings. Oh, that's still money. Oh, that's still, yeah, that's the stuff that they're doing. However, this is the same stuff we're using, and we're also using money. And when it gets to a stage where we start having issues with the same thing that we're needing, man, that's insane. Like the person that I don't like per se, or that's harming me, is the same person I'm empowering. I can't go anywhere like that. How can we get anywhere empowering the same people that we don't like? It's just, common sense would tell us there's intelligent beings here. There's beings already that have resources. They may have resources, no ideas. I'm not saying you got to come and call me up and tell me that you're going to give, some resources towards the next greatest idea. This been 10 years. Nobody has really done that. They come with the man, I always get these people, they don't have any real resources. They come asking me to do every single thing for them. And then we tell them, so what are we talking about here? $2,000. I have $2,000. $2,000. I mean, I'm just talking about that specific. To start an industry anywhere, if we could start an industry for $2,000, you know how many industries there would be? So it's just being out of tune and being out of touch. This is what, as a tribe, we sometimes have been guilty of. The same food that our children needs to eat, we don't even grow. Nor do we have a surplus of it somewhere being maintained. But it isn't because we can't have it. Anybody could have started an ICO. Anybody could have started a .com. Anybody could have went and invested and got a little pool together and incorporated it, got about 4 people in also, and then went and bought a condominium. Anybody could have done any of the things that I'm actually mentioning right now if they weren't in a program that literally counted them out as being a benefactor and put them in only either as a participant or a scoffer. Either I'm buying the mask or I'm scoffing at what's happening. It's 5G, it's this. I'm only complaining. I'm not enriching myself. I'm not enriching those around me. I'm wasting their time. And that's just a fact. But notice how many won't sober up on the fact. Like, just take what's being said, swallow it. Okay, I get it. This is what's happening. I'm disconnecting from the physical world that I also need to get to the next stage. It's going to be the awareness of everyone. Those same people that you want to leave behind are the same people you're going to need where you finally get to where you're going. I personally went to a stage where I said, you know what? I'm done with the whole club, people, money, cars, all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to go by myself. And I'm going to work on my spiritual growth. I spent a year doing that. Completely, like a solid year. Nothing else but me. I had so much spiritual power after a year only. Just a year of cutting it all off. Like somebody think like a monk story, you're gonna take you 20 years. No, it took a year for me to get to so much spiritual power. I came into a maximum level of awareness that it was not useful unless you actually were assisting others with it. It was already so much that you can share it with others. Wherever you could go in your dream and all the lucid traveling and waking up and still seeing the chakras turned on, watching your hands still move around, touching wood and seeing the sparkles come off the wood and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, but what is that without your brother and your sister though? It's empty. It's vain. So I'm glad that you know how to do it. Now you need something to do it too. And this means that you're going to have to now come off of that too, that Mount Meru that you've climbed up on. And you're going to have to learn how to descend back to where everybody else was last time you left off and see how you can get them up here too. And so that is the work. That's why a climb is a lot of work until you get strong enough to actually be able to withstand the forces that are pressing down on you. What is all doing this together? That's why I'm constantly, I'm thinking now, this is a perfect time and opportunity to shift people from where they are to this, because they've been watching that same thing. And everybody knows about Netflix. Everybody knows about Guide TV. Everybody knows about all that kind of stuff. And it serves up a very astringent template of how they do things that work. But if something new came, something innovative, something interactive, that will move everybody from there. That's like, oh, I'm now doing this again. Where am I going to get? Everybody has these same thoughts, and it's in the wave. It's in the ether. This is only going to take me to where I was before. What am I going to do new in my life? What is there really new out there? And that's where mentors and builders and all that come in, and pioneers and creators, because they say, this is what's new. Now we do something totally different. It's horizontal. All of our approach, all of our appearances, all of our connection actually equal the totality of the power. Others see that. They want to be involved. They want to be there. I want to be on the screen. I'm up there meditating. I meditate every morning. I'm going to jump up there. I'm going to show presence. Nah, the ego, I'm just coming up in there to connect, to do something different today, because I'm going to get a different result. Every time you do something different, you're going to get a different result. And that's the beauty of this whole thing, is that I never, in analyzing this, as I just explained, I didn't see where we were so held down that we couldn't do it if we weren't holding down ourselves. The program operates inside of the construct. So if we weren't fed different aspects of self that's still petty, we could have went right to the top. In being the being that you are, if you were on top, you would help us that we're down here still trying to figure it out. But if those that keep changing houses, you know, the birds, they just flying from one house to the next. We've never even seen these people. You don't see these people. The ones that own all of this stuff and say they, you know, have all this technology and all that, you don't see these people. These are human beings too. It's just they're choosing to continuously ride across the top. I saw Disney Plus at 50 million subscribers. And it's like, they act like they did something. Like everybody wants to go watch Disney and play around in some childhood world and never be an adept. They're announcing these things like they've done something, and they even have people in there working feel like they're doing something. Yes, they go, yes. Another term of 4-quarter growth in a recession. Yes, you're doing nothing. So this is also how you can assess where you're at and just how much more massive you really are. Like your intentions already are greater than what we're seeing at the stages that humanity is in right now. So you catch on to this. Get out of your psychological trip, your hypnosis. Like get out of that completely and just see things as they really are. And notice it's you oppressing you. Your timing is always off. The moment you decide you want to go do something, it's over. I kid you not. I knew when the whole thing was going to crash in 2018 with the whole cryptocurrency by a comment that I read on World Star Hip Hop in the thread. The guy said this. Hey, man, you know, once black folks figure out about something like this, when they finally let it get to us, that means that it's over, Doc. And man, it was only 1 week and it was over. Because what he's saying is, and let me put that into normal speak, the moment everybody in this minority group figures out about it, it's already too late. It's all they on to the next boom. Even this word minority is disgusting. Where does it come from? It's a reference to that in the United States, supposedly there's more Caucasians than any other race. So every other race is necessarily a minority inside of the United States, but they use this word everywhere. Minor, petty. This has no more, it doesn't even have a skin color. If you're Polish, you're a minority. You see what I mean? So it doesn't have a skin color to it. It's just saying all of the rest of the people that use what we develop. Those are the minorities. So I want you to check this out, and we're going to go into the meditation here. This meditation is about moving out of the way the blockages around what you're supposed to be doing with your abundance. Meaning every time something is happening, there's a phenomena where we're told to sit around and complain and talk about it or just buy it. Never to become the creators of it or the creators in it. And if on one turn, and hopefully that turn is the next one, happens really soon. If on one turn, we can get what's happening, and when that boom occurs again, you're actually positioned to actually have your, whatever you're developing, whatever you're doing, catch that wave. And again, it doesn't mean that you got to spend so much time trying to figure out when it's coming and which one it is. You just look at the one everybody's panicking about generally. When the crypto came, everybody was panicking because even the banks was panicking. That's another boom. It always has the same feel to it. Cryptocurrency or coronavirus, everybody's panicking. It's that same boom. But it always comes stronger. It tries to distract people more and more off of the obvious. And then changes are made. So this channel, I'm going to send a link for it in the chat here. Maybe someone will share it also with the public chats. It's called Minority Mindset. Okay. Here's the link. And the gentleman here, Jasprit Singh, is a genius when it comes to the financial things in the way we communicate these days. Now, his first video, that's actually one of his most recent, actually got now another recent video. Okay, so his videos range from about 11 to 13 minutes. And if you went over the last 10 videos, so this is a little less than 2 hours, you would be not only aware of exactly what the financial ramifications of what just happened with the 2 trillion stimulus and the oil and all that stuff, like just the specifics to what you need to know, but also how to position yourself properly in order to be able to benefit from what for sure is going to happen next, because this is not new. This situation that you're seeing happen in the market, there's already models of this happening, even if it was only for 3 months, 5 months, 6 months from different things happening in the past. And the same things always occur. And if you know what those things are, especially for, this is a candid conversation today, by the way, this is just bringing it all the way down to the basic level of how am I supporting myself? How am I converting this block of spiritual power, raw, unhindered force into something in 2020 that is going to allow me to stabilize myself and stabilize others? How am I going to stop being the fool in all of this? Hey, look over there. And the person's really over here. You know, you tap somebody's shoulder and they look over and they really over there. To stop letting that happen to you. And then also when you're sitting there, here's another thing. If you're sitting there and you're like, well, I don't have any money. Do you really not have any money? You know how people, they say that, but that generally is not the case. I'll say this again. When people say, well, I don't have any money, that is a program that's been running on you. Because even right now, in every single one of these opportunities, there's always money being given away. This is another thing. If you go through all of these, in cryptocurrency, Tron was giving away money. There was airdropping, all this crypto money. And it seemed like nothing at first. I think Tron was like 0.1 cents and then eventually hit something crazy. Everybody in India ate. Because, you know, that's another thing. Like if you're in some place, right, and then everything is super expensive and you go someplace that's on the same, that's say the same level of living, but it's cheaper, that offsets the financial thing. So I'm just saying it's really wisdom. It's really knowledge that determines where you're actually at. You could say you have no money, but they giving grants, they giving this, and they got that, they got another thing, they got another service. You just need to spend the time and actually saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. And here's another $10,000 grant over $15,000 over here. I'm going to grab this. I'll put this over here. But what I'm also getting at here is that generally, it doesn't matter if you don't have any money. There's things that need to happen before you get money anyway. And if you're not doing those things, it just means you're unprepared when the money comes. Also, from a metaphysical level and manifestation, because we take a step and then the step appears, it means that you're literally saying that you don't really want to get there because you're not really prepping up for things to actually be there. And thus you're missing the opportunity. So when you surround yourself by beings and vibrations and frequencies, of course, of where you want to be, that's where you go. Right now, looking at a Rob Report magazine or Monaco or Versailles on YouTube is not going to actually equal wealth, because that's not even realistic. Being around rich people don't want people that don't have money around them. So that's not being realistic. What is realistic, though, is channels like the Minority Mindset, channels that actually allow you to see This is how this works, really. If you have a driver's license and you have a bank account, then you actually can own any stock in the world by a simple E-Trade or these kind of different accounts. But if there's that thing that's in the back and saying, why are you feeding more into? Why are you giving more into? Trust me, it's going to be that same thing a year later that's like, we need to go get money from them. We're getting our check from them. So you're going to them anyway. So why don't you make this the last time then? If you have such a big problem with how the reality functions financially, which I do personally, I still know, well, you need to go and get your own bank then. Any divine feminine and divine masculine force is going to eventually snap into that level of consciousness. Like you're complaining about these surrogate parents feeding your children, get your own crops planted then. This may not happen tonight. You may not be able to cut yourself off from Bank of America tonight. But if you make some plans here and you realize what's happening around you, this is quantum growth that's happening. Like even right now, and this I'll say this and I'm done, when they use the term quantitative easing, Singh's going to mention that so you understand what it means. This guy is already a financier and he's also a lawyer and he had to go look it up. So this means they always throw out terms really fast. Oh yeah, quantitative easing, and then blah, 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 blah. And they act like everybody's like, oh yeah, I know what that is, because everybody's got this huge ego and they don't want to say that they don't know what that means. When they say quantitative easing towards key investors, what that means is that we now are infinitely, quantitative means infinitely going to give the money necessary to bail out any of our investors if they start taking a loss on anything that they invest in the corporations and the financial decisions that are being made. It's never been done. We know that, quote unquote, that they print money. Not everybody knows that though. And that money is backed on the petrodollar and many other things, but we know they print money, but they don't really come across like they do that in the past. Like, oh no, we don't print money. Everything's got a check and balance system. We know exactly how much we're printing. We print this amount. That's how they want everybody else to believe in the past. Now they don't want you to believe that anymore. They're even so cocky. They're like, we just passed a bill that literally says we can print as much money as we want to bail out our friends. That's what quantitative easing actually is. And then people talk about that phenomena of all the CEOs quitting, right? Everybody knows that all the CEOs of major corporations quit within the span of a week. But that's all that people are seeing. They're like, oh yeah, it was a coronavirus. It's going to just devastate everything. Look, it's a big conspiracy. And then so they're all up in that area, but they don't realize that all those CEOs also had sold all their stocks to the companies that they were CEOs of right before they left. When a CEO leaves, the stock drops anyway because people are unsure. Investors are unsure about what is going to be the new direction of the company. So then when the stock started dropping and then the corona thing hit, at that point, the stocks hit the floor. Then those same people, those same CEOs that sold their money, sold their stocks for profits, then bought back the stocks off the floor. That's wealth transfer. That's how wealth transfer takes place. And wealth transfer can only happen as big as the pipeline also. If you can't transfer $400,000 in one moment or $400 million in one moment because there's not even a technological system that can handle that, you cannot really move that much money. But now, since cryptocurrency, they're also using that outlet. Now they're using the bank's outlet. Now they have the World Trade or the Federal Trade Commissions and all these different things, all vertically aligned, and even from a level of ACH and transferring money, they're able to literally move millions of dollars from one area right into another. Let that $1 million become $400 million and move it out of there and move it over somewhere else. That was never able to be done. That's wealth transfer. Now remember, most of this started from a guy in his garage with no money, just with a certain level of awareness of being able to watch trends. Then in watching trends, figuring out how to not get so emotionally attached inside of a trend, which blinds you. This is like when a crazy situation is happening and then you just go into hysteria. So you actually literally stop doing anything that will prevent that situation from occurring anymore. You're already hysterical. So they desensitize that aspect of themselves of going crazy. Oh my God, I'm losing all the money. Like, remember when the dot-com bust happened, there was a lot of those same people like, okay, we're losing all the money. We need to switch over. The ones that were most calm, they switched over into certain things. Even right now, it's common sense. Amazon's, all of these different corporations that have to bring something, that have a structure to bring something right to your front doorstep and have the supply chain. That's why in the future, they say maybe only Amazon, because Amazon's, they have the entire supply chain. They have their own shipping companies. They have their own planes. They have their own deliveries. In certain countries, they even have a whole drone network. And so people are sending their products to Amazon so Amazon can fulfill the services. This is actually the immediate thing that anybody who's been producing a product outside of a fulfillment service right now and still trying to survive, they're moving it to Amazon. So whatever it is that they're producing, they're boxing up, they're sending it to Amazon, putting it right online. And then it doesn't mean that it's just for sale on Amazon. You are also taking orders in other places and just sending the order to Amazon saying fulfill it. So every time something is happening, it just takes you to have the wisdom to know how to go and get the truth. And then also snap out of this hypnosis of everything has to have spirits, a spiritual thing going on with it for that to even compute in your consciousness. Because what that is that you just become really proficient at this. You've been studying spirituality, let's say. Some have been doing that their whole lives. So this is like you going to be a chemist. Now you're a chemist, so you're going to want to stay in your arena all the time, and you're going to see the world through the eye of a chemist. But the world, in many ways, is all chemistry, but in other ways, it has other things happening too that you may not understand or be able to see from your viewpoint as a chemist. So you have to be able to find the algorithm. That's what we're doing here. We're not analyzing one specific situation. We're analyzing all the situations and seeing the commonality between all those situations. Then that way we can recognize when that situation is occurring again. I'm not saying that you'll be able to benefit from this situation that's happening right now completely because it's already rolling. Not that you'll be able to go and buy machines that make masks and all that kind of stuff because it's already rolling. But many also are catching the hint that, hey, if I just, readapt what I'm doing for online, that's going to pop. As I said before, right now, if you teach, or you were a teacher and you put a place to teach children online, conscious things, that's going to pop because you got more parents looking for other activities. They got the schools online, which is comical, but they're looking for more activities that this child is going to be able to do something. And I know somebody say, well, that's put him online and the parents need to be out with their kids. Well, they need the outlet to actually begin to teach them how to do that. And that's where you come in. So there's always a space. There's always a demand. Just like they said, there's the same amount of gold that was here in the beginning right now. It's just shifted around and moved around. And so we need to learn as a conscious community how to make things shift into our hands. So that way, if we truly trust ourselves, I trust myself, that we can then use those resources to really bring assistance. So then it's not just Amazon, McDonald's, Apple, all these other companies up there that have shown that they don't have any real regard for anything beyond their bottom line. We need large corps, if you may, up there, corporations that actually are holistic. Again, tap the guy, if you're there next to him, from Gaia TV on the shoulder, like, what's good? $30 million a month. We're seeing none of that. You just created more Ancient Alien videos so we can watch at home. $30 million a month is a lot of money to do something for this community with. You could do something with this community even less than that. Joe Rogan, On It Labs, Aubrey Marcus, millions of dollars. They published it themselves. I'm not whistleblowing on them. They have that. They said they have that much money. They report that much money. What's good? Online school, something. because it's already been 6 years. So that means that's at that rate, and that's what you're reporting. You're already sitting on a cool 80 to 90 million dollars. How can you spend through that? Like, even at a certain point, you end up having everything you want anyway, because there's only a certain amount of things you can buy in the world. So reciprocation, pushing it back. Even us ourselves, every time we go and buy one of these pair of gym shoes, we go buy another name brand clothes, man, go to Etsy, man, go find some holistic. There's tons of us out there that do stuff on a holistic level, produce that same thing, even toothpaste. Just take it all back. You go buy from Jason's toothpaste. We ain't heard from Jason. Jason is now owned by Dow Chemical now. You ain't heard from Claire's daughter. Claire's daughter is owned by Maybelline in them now. Oil of Olay. So when you're seeing your current, start seeing your current as seeds. And start just taking that extra time, because sometimes that's all it is just a little bit of extra time. We go to Amazon, it's fast. But let's start making a conscious decision to, I can just go and get this rice from right up the street from the guy that does the rice. Or I can just go and get, this night mask from somebody on Etsy that makes night mask. Stop giving to these beings anymore and putting them in power over us. That's what I'm really saying. It makes it tougher over here on this side. That's what I'm saying. Like, in conclusion, I'm going out and I'm dealing with this distorted creature all the time, trying to figure out how to make a way in all of this for this tribe as we're going through this process. And man, this thing that we're going through, us feeding it and giving it more power to keep impeding us, is ridiculous. And I know that maybe there's only 1,000 of us here today, tops. But that's a lot of power, because it's exponential and you never know who you're around. And with each of us making and changing how our actions are, this puts us into another resonance and another frequency. Soon it'll get to a level where we can begin to connect, like, hey, I got this machine over here and you got that design. Let's run that design through this machine and then we'll produce this for everyone. It will get to that stage eventually. This is the predecessing process. This is the process that we go through before we get there, where we're all able to harmonize and be like, you know what? You're right. Let's go get mega wealthy on one of these waves and booms where we make the right decision and stop being the one purchasing things all the time and be the one that's creating something. Let's gain some momentum and then actually have a clean heart. Actually really be into it and distribute that money, because I have everything that I need already. I don't need anything new. So for me to take, as I do now, high percentages of the incomes that are coming in and fire right back into the developers, the people who are on staff, the people who need to be paid, the people that are hurt, the people who need assistance, the taxes I got to pay on the commissions that we're not charging any taxes for, all of these, the hit that we take on products because we're an affiliation, but we're not the manufacturer of all the products. So all of those things, it's still simple for me to be able to take resources and actually put it and allocate it into those things, because my external is straight. So yes, get your external straight first financially, and figure out how you're going to catch one of these booms, and then start being focused when all this stuff is actually happening, and stop running off listening to somebody else talking about something that's not going to empower you. This is where you're at right now. Full moon. How do you get your money back? You get it by realizing what we talked about today, that you have connections and sources and things, but you only have so much time. And if all your time is being spent in listening to things that are not actually going to fix a situation that you're well aware exists, you can't get nowhere. And as I said before, and I'll say this and I'm done, what the meditations do, they give you a level of power that comes in like a block of raw power. You're still responsible for determining how that gets manifested in the physical reality. is what I said before. It's the secret to meditation. Many want to know, how do you really meditate? How do I manifest something in my mind? And they start to think that meditation is visualizing the world that they want to live in. That ain't going to work. You cannot think about anything and then achieve true meditation. It's a different gear. You have to disengage one gear to completely engage the other gear. What this is about is you can let go of trying to actually visualize anything that you want to receive and just tap into, you just need to build energy. So when I meditate, I don't do the visualizations and all these kind of different things. I'm not saying they don't work. I don't have a need for that. I can stare into the void of my third eye, see nothing, so I can disengage from that gear, and then I start feeling. So seeing to me is still less than feeling. So I start feeling this energy, and I feel this energy moving through, and I feel it building up. And I stay focused on not thinking. Because if I'm thinking, oh man, I'm going to use this, and wow, that feels, I wonder if I'm going to turn my third eye on. I wonder if that's going to help me get this car, blah, blah, blah. If that's not going to work. It just turns off, it goes back down. We've talked about this before. But what you're also doing is, as it's building and building and building, it's becoming this raw energy sitting right into your field. And then when you're done with the meditations, what your mind does is it re-engages the gear again, because it always comes back into this consciousness, and it starts coming up with brilliant ideas of what it wants to get done. And guess what? It now has the energy to do it. And then it figures out a way. You know how they say, man, it figures out a way I figured out a way with there being no way, or without a way. That synchronicity thing that you talk about, like you were walking down the street, you were late, and then your friend pulled up, and that synchronicity happens. It's that same field that brings the invisible back into the visible. That's what you're working with. So let us go into this meditation today. I know it was more like economics 101, astroeconomics 101. You know, I know that some are just here to sit into full lotus and dial into the space, and we'll do that too. But I also feel like in all of this that, you know, the action is really big and really key. The power is already here. I feel the power. I'm not even waiting for the whole Easter anymore. Like the Easter is already chosen. We already have the energy here and present. Now it puts us at that point, like, what you gonna do? So I want to show you something also that we've been working on, because also in this session, before, you know, we close out our sessions of this worldwide meditation, if that's going to happen, a lot have showed interest in Ennealogy and actually learning more about themselves. And we've been working on this for a while about how to at least get others to see just how powerful Ennealogy is in a very direct way. And then like choose, you know, kind of where they want to start it and pick it up in the future. So I guess what I'm saying in a nutshell is that we started working on directly in 2020, how can others know the most about themselves, and what kind of format should that really come in? And this is very dynamic because it ties into live operators, or soul coaches, as we call them, that actually come in and assist at certain parts when we feel like that you would need assistance. But I'm gonna do a share screen really briefly here. And what you're looking at is, let me see here, share. Okay, it's right here. All right, let's move this out of the way. Okay, so let me see if everybody's seeing this. Okay, yeah, I'm assuming everybody's seeing it. If everybody's seeing this, could you just wave like that if you're seeing my share screen? Okay, thanks, brother. So, okay, so how this works is that this is something that will go right in a Telegram, which is on your phone. So I'm just gonna say start here. Like when I come here, I was playing with this all morning, so I reset it, and let me just get it to reset here. Okay, there we go. So this is saying, and let me just blow up the actual area where I'm at. This may be a little tough to see. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Yeah, I can actually make that bigger here. So I trust that you'll be able to see it. So this is just saying, what is your first name? So I'm just gonna say, James, what is your last name? My last name is Bomar. And what is my email? My email is info@ Well, watch out because I'm gonna get all sorts of crazy emails. I got you finally. So we make that, email. And then here we go. It's saying for me to enter my birthday. Now, this is the point where Ennealogy is going to kick in. So what you're looking at here is that there is like so much itemization in Ennealogy, if you didn't notice. Like we went through 2 weeks of just going through all these planets and it was a great ride, but some may have said, okay, so what did I learn though about myself personally that I could like go and start putting into practice, right? And that's always been something I've been challenging myself for years, uh, before the creation of the university. After the university, I felt like we started laying down like a curriculum to where, we know what is our next directive and what are we doing, and about this knowledge specifically. And so in this case, we have done the same thing for Ennealogy, and we're about to deploy this system that it consists of 4 phases. And the first 2 phases we're going to put you through for free because we realize that if you do everything that we're talking about here, you'll have finances to get yourself to the next stage. And the system is designed where the more you put into it, the more it gives back to you anyway. And you can even use this as a form of employment as you're coming from, let's say, a person that's just coming in and you want it done to you, as we talked about, you want to learn Ennealogy and you want to know more about yourself, to a person that's actually able to do that to others, so that basically you become a certified Ennealogist. And this allows you to assist others that want you to assist them. This is a system that's totally dynamic. It's not based on any of the components that I find as faults with some of the life coaching plans and all that. People choose you. And so this means the people that you're interacting with are not the ones that are like, you got to convince to do something and there's no relationship already there. As a soul coach, the person has already chosen you as being the one that they really want you to work with them on their path. So that's phase 3, phase 4. But phase 1 and phase 2 would roll out something similar to this. And I'm going to demo this out on path number 1, which we've been using as our test path. So I'm going to put in here a birth date that's going to trigger path number 1. And of course, in this case, you're putting your birthday here into the date. The day that you put the birthday on is actually going to determine the path that you're on. And that's Ennealogy, right? So here I've indicated a path that puts me on path number 1. And when I do that, now these actionables begin. And you'll be able to probably see this on your screen, that now what's been served up right away is an overview of your path, like all of the details that you really need to know about yourself. And it's telling you to go to this page and to see that information. And then when you complete that, to come back here and click on resume. This also works directly on your phone. So when you click resume, that means, okay, I reviewed that, I'm ready to go. Now it's going to explain to you exactly what Ennealogy is and ask you, are you ready for this journey? You would say yes. As the journey continues, you're now getting path specific information. This means things that are based on your own specific path. And what we've done is we've created what we feel like is where, from the start of where everything should begin, like not even omitting things that, see, because like if you come to me, you may assume that there's things that I already know because I've been involved in the conscious community and the conscious knowledge and all this kind of stuff. But I may still be using fluoride in my toothpaste and just totally never got that memo. So what this does is in phase 1 is it goes over everything that that you should know very briefly. So that way we have a mindfulness aspect of what we're doing, because there's a lot of power in what we're talking about here. It's not a game. But to be mindful, if you're going to give a person power, you need to leave no stone unturned, and you need to at least make sure that, yeah, I did confirm that this person knows about what they need to be doing with their diet, knows about what things they shouldn't be putting in their system because they're poisons, knows about, the power of certain systems such as the meditation. But then beyond that, it gets so path specific. Like this is path number 1, which is a primum, which is a solar body. The primum, or the 1, is the sun. And so in this case, everything about, let's say, for instance, that path that is beneficial to that path, even things such as sun gazing, which is very powerful for a number 1 as a leader. All of those things are actually built into these actionables. And they're built into them in a way where, 1, the interaction is kind of based on whether you've already reviewed something, you get it, now you're ready to continue. And then also where, okay, we know this is going to take you some time to digest, because it's going to take anyone at least 2 days to finish this. we'll be back with you. So then there's no button to actually push. As you see, I've entered an actionable here where it's asking me to do something. It's asking me to check on my resonance and my cosmic energy and to really get that on point. And then I'll get back with you in 24 hours. This is set to trigger in 1 minute because we're actually testing this. But you can see so far, there's been recommendations about the resonances, the gold, what it does for the being, power-ups, debilities. Like this person can be a little bit overbearing sometimes, a little bit bossy. These are the things that the person needs to watch out for. And as these actionables are running, remember, they're coming across daily. And so we feel like also in a synchronistic way, it'll connect you with things that you're already experiencing in real time that you're dealing with. And this is just one of the systems that we're set to get ready to deploy to actually begin to get others more familiar with themselves, but also in a way where, because it's 2020, it's like if somebody even has to sit with you for 3 or 4 hours and to walk you through the basics of your path, this could be an extreme hindrance to that person. Not to mention that's really not what we call scalable. We're designing a system to where a soul coach can possibly have 3 to 30 people even that are tying in and corresponding with them, asking them for assistance at specific times where we know that they would need assistance. And it also does create a revenue stream for that soul coach. So it's really a symbiotic system that is designed the way nature is designed. What came first, the chicken or the egg? We don't know, but the chicken keeps producing the egg and the egg keeps producing the chicken. So as long as we can develop something that has that kind of model to it, it means that it is basically ad infinitum sustainable plan. So I just wanted to show that today, just in relation to where I've been directing a lot of my personal energy and completing something that I feel is still a key component in us realizing more about ourselves. We have something else that's coming that's just, it's wow. But I don't want to talk about that at all because, again, I don't want that in the projection. But I do want you to know that what we've been doing over here on this side is taking our own advice. Seeing the same trends and these things happening and then making sure that we're not also doing that too. And I'm speaking for myself personally, that I'm not like so overwhelmed by all these different situations that I forget the opportunities and the plans that can be made to put us in the position that we say that we were going to be in. And we're even there now. And that's being a bridge between what we see going on in this world, if you may, the corporate worlds or whatever, to also what we're dealing with in the conscious community, because we're, as in the conscious community, also a bridge to other outlets such as the First Nations, like the indigenous tribes. If you're trying to ask someone from an indigenous tribe to go and figure out how to start an ICO, that's too big of a gap. So that's why we exist here, is because we close that gap. And we're actually able to get our own beings that know how to do that and create revenue. Then we funnel that revenue back into the First Nations and things that they're saying that they need to get done, like getting land out of the hands of people that came and bought the land from them and just leaving the land there stale and dead. So they can go into these lands and actually revitalize these lands and get these ley lines straight. So it's just bridging is what we're talking about here. So if you have these talents, and then you know that you're in a time where these talents can be used, you only may need to just figure out when the next boom is occurring and then figure out how to be prepared for something like that. So that way you can do great leadership and great mentorship in a world that is in need of people in quote unquote high places that actually really give a damn about what's happening here on the entire spectrum. So that's the challenge that is coming to us. I believe that we're more than up for it, especially together. And as we continue to go forward and have more foundation and be sober consciousness about what we need to be doing here on this planetary system, I feel that we'll ultimately prevail in what we're looking for as far as our intentions and our desires. So also today, I'm going to have to do somewhat of a guided meditation because there is no golden intonation. As I mentioned before, that there was a slight issue with the system where nothing was being pushed through. Let me just try this one time though. It may work. Let me just see here. Okay, let's see here if that's working. Can somebody tell me if the wave of the hand, is it working? Oh, it's working. Okay, all right. So So in this meditation, let me turn it off really briefly here. Just to center ourselves back into the space. What we're doing, because I just gave a long version of why we need to stay on point. And the process actually of when we're developing energy through our meditations, but how that energy ultimately comes back out into the world. It's about you realizing that because there's certain things that you do know about, you actually make a great bridge to the places that don't know about it. And that every time something big happens, as I've showed through this evidence, that there's always the ability for someone with a sober mind and very balanced to be able to go to the next stage with all of this and get to a higher level. If we want to, use terms like higher and lower, to actually be able to assist others. And so today you're going to dial that in. You're not going to look at what you don't have. You actually have quite a bit. But you do need to have some specifics. I mentioned earlier, dialing into just understanding how this financial thing really works. So that way, you're not also that person that's sitting back there wondering, well, what all the stimulus and checks, and are we headed towards a recession? And you're just sitting there like that. And you're not realizing also that during recessions, there are beings that actually become more wealthy during those recession times. That's why they happen generally. And so you get up-to-date information also that's not so over-spiritual to where it doesn't connect to anything that you need to do in your life right now to feed those babies. We can all be guilty of that sometimes, that we look to these other worlds so much and that we just forget about what are the basics and the things that we actually can do here. And also see the others that are around you, because sometimes when you cannot do something, you also still have somebody around you that's exactly what they do. And us working together more and creating things that bring us more into this kind of interaction, which is what Secret Energy is constantly doing, is going to put us eventually into a space where every single thing that we're developing and we're doing is all cycling amongst each other and enriching and strengthening each other. And we're going to be wise about not letting too much of our current seep out into strengthening the things that actually are causing us the issues right now and have showed us clearly now in 2020, their clear faces showed us completely who they truly are and how they really feel about us. We won't take our seeds anymore, or at least not all of it. We won't take so much of everything that we have and go and put it into their pot. We may have to do that for now, but think about starting to pull your resources out of those channels, and first by putting it into somewhere else where that channel is contained. So I'm just saying very simply, if you go to a men's clothing store, Macy's, and you're going to find some pants, you can assist right now by just going to Etsy and buying those pants directly from a person, because the money is going to go to that person, and it's going to go to that person. And instead of back into the same corporations that are actually feeding things. So it doesn't, that are actually hindering things. So it doesn't mean that, I just want to make this very clear, that's what I'm harping on. It doesn't mean that you first start off by just only shopping with your folks, because your folks may not even have what you need. When they say your folk, we're talking about just your family members. I'm only going to spend the money for my uncle, and your uncle doesn't even have what you need. But you can start that first by taking it out of the hands of the corporation and giving it into the hands of the human family. Artisans, people that are creating things, that they're the stopping point. They're going to go take that money and they're going to go buy food for the kids. And that's the conclusion of it. Not they're going to go take the money, invest it in another corporation that's going to now develop another technology to hold you into a cage. So there we have it. We're going to start this golden intonation now. We're all projecting together that we are the bridges in this new stage that we're actually in. And that now that these gates are open and the new house is coming into play, that we will also be rulers in that house. And that through what we've learned so far, we feel like that we're also in the best stage to realize how to really treat people, how to really treat other human beings, how to really treat the nature and treat the animals, how to respect each other. And that's what we're going to do. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on.